Mind to join me with pledge of allegiance and a word of prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, be with us today as we deliberate the business of the county. Help us, Lord, to keep in mind your wishes and your will for us. Help us to remember, Lord, that we work for the citizens of Adams County, and help us to always keep them utmost in our minds. I ask all these things, Lord, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, starting with the minutes from the April 1st meeting.
I did
Tony had one correction, I know.
correct the one thing, I think a couple of you pointed
Yep.
out to me. That is corrected.
Talking about the location of the new EDC office was, I think, the only thing that I
Yeah,
caught.
uptown, right,
Yeah.
versus, yeah.
Yeah, I changed that on there.
Anything else that you guys saw we needed to speak to?
I looked over them and, I saw nothing else, so with that being said, I moved to accept the, 1 April minutes.
Even though it's April Fool's Day, I'll second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. That motion passes. Thanks, guys. Moving on to auditor.
First thing we have are the weekly allied health insurance claims. If you remember, we had a credit last time. This time, we had a total of all medical, $7,024.80, but the credit that we had was $55,1513, so that makes total required funding $1,509.67. I did verify the claimants, $1,509.67.
That's the motion that needs to be made for that amount, Tony?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that motion passes.
Okay, you should have received payroll time card approvals for appointed department heads.
We did that. You guys have any questions on that?
No, I looked at those and I make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay,
Second.
motion passes.
Okay. We also have payroll claims, and those payroll claims are in the amount of $380,171.50, $380,171.50.
I move we accept payroll.
Second.
Motion passes. Thanks, guys.
And that is all I have. I think Ed's going to be here for his treasurer's report that I handed to you prior to the meeting, but I think he's coming back. If for some reason he doesn't, we can do that later. And otherwise, that's all I have.
Okay, moving on. Nate, you're up.
All right, well, good morning.
Morning.
So the log jam removal down on Bridge 162 is back again and gone again. So with the recent rains, about 3-inch rain, 4 inches of rain come through, and the log jam that I just reported at your last meeting had been removed. We had an even larger one develop there, that bridge. So there's a picture of it there for you to kind of see where that's at. I had reached out to the same contractor saying, hey, we got even more new trees. His pile he had moved, it was actually still stable off to the bank, so it's not like the log jam just floated back over the bridge. These are all new logs coming into that area. So I contacted him, and then I found out that yesterday afternoon and he had removed the log jam. So I went out before the council meeting to go confirm that. So everything you're seeing here, he's already removed from the top of the bridge.
Wow, how do you do that with the high
Holy
water?
cow.
He just reached over the banks and pulled those out with a claw on
Water
his
floats them out
excavator.
near the
So
top of the
the
bridge.
water
doesn't it?
brought all the logs to him, essentially. So it kind of worked out fortuitously. How's that?
So what did you just pile them off to the side again?
So he just put them off to the side. So they're now south of the bridge on that embankment. So
Is that where they're gonna stay?
that's where they're gonna stay for now. We need to come up with a longer range plan, which is part of my questions for all of you today. Is I've been debating the future of this bridge for a while. That bridge and County Road 125 are a bit of a connection point. There's a number of issues that are related to that bridge. One, the condition of the deck due to the high population of Amish that use that as a cut through between the Jay County Amish and those to the north. They use that because it's a rural bridge for them. So it's a nice, easy access. They don't have a lot of competing traffic for them, so that is a nice connection point for them to use. Issues are those that the bridge spans are not long enough, so that is a debris catch for us. This year, 2 already in early April. It's been needed to be cleaned probably twice a year regularly. They may even need more if we're staying on top of it. As well, the condition of that deck needs to be looked at. And the roadway to the south is really the first road to flood and the last one to dry out. So when it does flood, the Amish want to try to use it, but we have to try to keep that policed. The road's in poor condition. So there's a combination of issues between that 1/4 mile of road and bridge that needs some investigation. Replacing the bridge is going to be a significant expense for low volume traffic, but it's critical to minority population in the community. So I don't want to ignore that for the long term. And as a safety issue, the roadway really needs to be considered being raised hydraulically. The bridge would have to be larger, or a secondary bridge at that low lying area would be considered. A lot of big and very expensive issues to consider.
Yeah.
So to do that, what I would like to ask you as commissioners, if you would allow me to, I would like to solicit proposals from another consultant to look at the economic and feasibility options of this. I don't want to make this determination on my own, because you're talking about a significant expense either way. And I want that to get presented to you so you can make an educated decision on the future of that bridge. How do I want to queue that? Initially, I just wanted to do an overlay, fix the overlay. There's just too many other issues that keep coming up since I've been here that I want to try to make sure that I'm not doing something short-sighted. It may be a cheap option, but I might be wasting it. When every decision's hundreds of thousands of dollars when you're talking about these bridges.
Yeah.
So I don't wanna do something that may seem like a good
Are,
idea
are
today.
there options to keep the bridge serviceable with a lower load rating?
Yeah.
So the Amish can still use it?
That's something to consider. I mean, from their travel patterns, maybe you just make this as an Amish bridge and you say, hey, this is for buggy traffic and local traffic only. And then we deal with the road and we do something lesser with the bridge. Maybe keeping the bridge as it is kind of a trash rack is beneficial because the trees get stuck here
It's all
and they're
there.
not hitting all the other bridges in Adams County.
Yeah.
But maybe we need to work something out with the property owner because the piles of trees are starting to collect. The property owner has been very gracious to us, but we don't have any legal rights for that. When he passes, we all do, that may not be something we have options to in the future. So I want to come up with a long range plan that fits the needs, but.
Well, Nate,
Yeah.
I'm quite familiar with that area.
Absolutely.
Okay, number one, the existing bridge. Are you saying that you could keep it functional by not replacing the whole structure?
That's something I want to consider. Yes.
Now, the bridge never goes underwater. However, if you go south of there, it is just about the first area in the county that gets covered.
Absolutely it is.
Now, I don't know how much you'd have to raise that road to make it passable with the rains we just had. It wouldn't work. It would be, if we raise that road up 3 feet, it'd be underwater right now.
Yep, you would, if 3 feet wouldn't quite be enough, we would have to look at actually, I've got Ethan looking at some of the elevations where we're at. And I wanna look at those options and see if that's even a possibility.
Yeah, that option would be, I guess I would have a tendency, I don't have no problem if you getting your studies done. I would have a tendency to think, hey, the log jams are never gonna quit. That river is like there's so many curves in that.
Yep.
That you're always gonna have log jams. There's always leaning trees that's coming down.
Yep.
There's always stuff that washes in when you have high water. It's gonna be a continual log jam thing. I'm
Mhm.
just curious, one question I want to ask you is, where did you get the funds that removed the log jams that you just did?
There is a maintenance line item in the budget. When we set the budget up for this year, maintenance and preservation, that's where I set, I think
So it
about
didn't come out of the
60,000.
commissioner's budget we have some money
You
set
have some
aside.
out of the surveyor's
Yeah.
fund for
Right.
log jam. So I set some money aside so that I can do it out of our on-call or hourly, but our annual bids. That's where we end up contacting some local contractors to do some service calls like that, because we don't have a size excavator adequate to
Right.
move those trees.
Well, thank you for finding those funds, but I guess my feeling would be do your study. And I would have more of a tendency to repair the existing bridge because it is not heavily traveled by autos and trucks, pickup trucks. But it is heavily traveled with the Amish population.
Yep.
And perhaps maybe a top priority would be maybe to try to raise that road up some south of the bridge. So it's more, you have right now, if you have an 1.5 inch rain, it probably goes under.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's the
If
first
we
one
could-
that
Yeah, if we
floods.
could repair it to the point where it takes a 2 inch rain, that'd be a plus.
If anything that we could do to try to address the flooding there is gonna benefit the Amish population,
Right.
use of that. Because right now they end up having to go to more heavily traveled roads. And for them to for you and I to take a 6 mile detour around in a car, you're 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you may curse under your breath when you gotta do it, but when you're an Amish and you're going at 5 and 10 miles an hour in a buggy, you're talking about a significant amount of time there and back, to take those travels, so.
And the second highest travel on that road are vans that haul Amish.
Yep.
And some of these guys, if they think can get through, they'll try it. And that's when the sheriff gets a call.
So to avoid some of those issues, I think that there's a number of things where we may have to deal with the log jams. I think that you're probably right. I want to put, with the study, what I want to do is I want to put a dollar amount for feasibility to each of these things. And then you as commissioners can then say,
Okay.
yeah, it's not worth spending that money to do
I
this
think that's a
thing.
good
I don't
It
have
may
any
be
problem with
nice,
that.
but here's the dollar amount and why we're not doing that
Good.
and why we are doing something
That, we
else.
need to make a
So
motion.
if you're
in
good with
respect.
that,
I don't
I
think
just
so.
like
I would come out of Nate. He
Approval.
can do that.
yeah,
Alright.
so we can get that work done. then.
Okay.
So, okay, with that, then moving on, NDOT quarterly reports on our current federal aid projects. Those are due here this month for the first quarter of this year, so I'm gonna be working on those this week and next. And then lastly, I've got NIPSCO has asked for permission to do maintenance on a gas line that is attached to a bridge. I'd initially notified you that there were 2 bridges. One of the gas lines they've already buried, so I think that they asked to protect a line that they've already done work. But they're gonna be doing some work on a gas line that's connected to Bridge 48 that's on County Road 550 northeast of Pickle Road. It is attached to our bridge on a pipe hanger. They're just asking for permission to do that. If you're fine with that, then I'll just have them do a dig in the right of way permit, so it's on file. That way they could just submit that. We'll just proceed with that route if you're good with that.
Good.
So, other than that, and flooding waters everywhere, it's starting to recede. I think it's down about a foot from the crest, late yesterday. But, hopefully we'll start getting more roads opened up. I did drive around the county looking at all sorts of different bridge areas. Very fortunate, some of them.
Great time to go exploring.
I
See
burned a
where
lot
our
of,
issues
burned a
are.
lot of fuel and, walked in a lot of water,
Yeah.
so,
Good.
to look at it,
Thanks for
so, but no worse for wear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good deal. Brad, come on down.
There were votes taken on those 2 requests?
There were not.
Just, they were okay.
It's within Nate's authority to do that.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
So the first thing today is, there was an email sent to the commissioners about the parking lot strict.
I got that. That came to me, guys.
I've taken care of it already.
Or maybe it came to all of us.
It went to the commissioners, but that is actually Monroe's area. And so I called Justin from Monroe this morning and he knows where the basins are. He knows where the tile goes, and the tile actually goes east over to Van Buren Street.
Okay.
So this afternoon, basically, once I get done here and Paul and I have time, we're gonna go over there and we're gonna jet from Van Buren, because he said it is flowing a little bit over there, so we're gonna jet back and help Monroe out.
Cool. Thank you.
And see if we can get it opened up.
Appreciate
But yeah,
that.
that is Monroe's area.
Yeah.
And Justin knows all about it though, so
Yeah.
that's getting taken care of.
Good deal.
So the other thing, if you gentlemen remember, just watch, there might be some birds on that. On 300 West, we had some of our high water floodgates get shot up and our spinner get shot up. When Paul went out to close 300 West, one of our locks got shot. So Paul had to use some pliers and that and physically break that open, and I had to run him out another lock. So, and the sheriff The sheriff knows about it. They've already been looking into the other signs and that got shot up, so they are made aware, but I just wanted to point this out because, you know, we put these things up to protect people. And they're going around shooting them and just like that. I mean, I already had the other enclosed and he's sitting there at this. Well, he can't leave without locking that gate, and so I had to run out there and take him a lock. So this is just to make you more aware of, yeah.
So guys, question the sheriff on this, other than stupidity, why?
Inconveniences that they can't go around these gates like before, because we did half gates before, these are full gates. And with the location of the gates are up along the bridge or there's steep ditches, they can't go around them. And they don't like it. But we are looking into it. We put out social media posts. But there's houses in the background where these guys are shooting towards. So there's some criminal elements besides criminal mischief. There's criminal recklessness with a firearm. There's other charges that could be very serious. And if someone gets hurt while they do it, or if someone, because they can't lock the gate, they bust the gate open and it's open and someone goes in and is killed, we got other criminal charges that could be. It's very serious, these guys tampering these gates.
Now,
If we
you
catch
think,
them, we will prosecute them fully to the law.
do you think once they shut the lock, ruined it, do you think they actually opened up the gate and went through?
This
No,
was
the gate
found,
that was locked shut. So they didn't,
well,
they
this
didn't open the
was,
lock.
this was when we went to shut the gate. This was before the gates were out. So it was hanging on the
Oh, I
gate off the
see, I
side of the
get it.
road. So
Oh,
they shot
they
it.
were preventing you from locking it.
Yeah, basically, is what it amounted to. Use it for target practice. Yeah.
We could
Well,
get
the
a,
radio's
be a
been doing a
ricochet.
good job too of reporting on this
Yeah,
stuff.
but like I
So
said, there's an ongoing investigation with it, and like I said, if we catch it or if someone turns in anybody, we'll prosecute them as full.
Thank you.
Full extent that we can.
Thanks. So to go along with that, the only other thing I have is, right now, there's currently 8 roads that are still flooded. Thankfully, the last, yesterday afternoon, it's coming down. We're able to open up a few. So we still have 8 roads that are flooded. 5 of them actually do have the gates. And then the other 3 are ones we haven't gotten the gates out yet. But there's high water signs there. And as far as I know, and I'm very thankful, I think these gates are a great thing. I don't believe we've had any vehicles in the water at any of them.
wow,
So I am very, very
you just
thankful.
jinxed yourself right there. But,
You
yeah.
sure did.
It's coming down now. Though.
No, I'd say kudos to the Adams Central
Yes,
shop class.
correct. They're the ones that made all the gates. So, but anyhow, and that's all I got.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
Right.
Hey,
Very
Brad,
good.
how many roads were flooded originally total? What, 11 or 12?
How much rain to come? They said it was between 3 and 4 inches.
And it's just been the one shooting.
Come on up, Rick.
Yes.
I missed you sitting over there.
Morning, Rick.
Hello, guys. To piggyback on that a little bit, those gates, I believe Delaware County. Got some of those gates patterned from them and they're using it.
No kidding. Isn't that
I think
interesting?
they're having, good luck with that. I know a gentleman, one of their highway superintendents. So Good thing there. Good. Our chillers. A year ago, you authorized me to, get a maintenance plan on them. Well, it's that time of year, you do it. And I have that in front of me. The scope of the work is here. I did budget for this. Allowed me to do it again. And this would be paid July, October and April. The last installment's due, obviously this month, then it renews for May. I have it here for you to look at it.
Do you think we've got our money's worth out of it?
You know, I think, it is expensive, but we spent $230,000. Basically, that warranty is all gone. So Do we want to spend this or renew?
Unfortunately, what my experience has been, if I don't have an agreement like this, I probably don't do the maintenance that I should because I don't want to pay the bill. So a maintenance agreement like this, just for me, tends to result in a higher level of routine maintenance
Right.
and monitoring versus not having an agreement in place.
And they actually did, doing this last year. Of course, the pump was out of warranty, but they did find one going out and we replaced.
And I think that's critical. If we can identify something that is in the middle of failing before it fails, that's better for all of our employees and everybody that has to go struggle through once we have a failed system.
What the, you want me to read the dollar amount there?
Yeah, you can.
For the year, it'd be $6,557. And that comes in increments of 2,185.68 3 times.
So they come out 3 times basically and inspect those units first and do routine maintenance on them.
Yes.
If there's a problem, do they take care of the problem or they just notify you that we need to take care of the problem?
Well, if it's materials, if you see on the front there, if it comes to materials or anything, they'll do the cleaning, they're gonna do the maintenance, they're gonna do any oil, greasing, et cetera, checking all the gauges, evaporation.
But if there was a major problem that kind of goes beyond this agreement, are they capable of doing the repair
Yes.
work? You gotta find someone.
Yes, they are capable. When we got these chillers, Doug, it was formerly BTS, they were known as. They are now switched over to the Dilling Group. But they are capable of fixing whatever goes.
I
go wrong.
I agree with Steve to the point that we can't ignore it. And, they're close, they're Fort Wayne, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, Dan, if you don't have a problem, you want.
No, that was a good question though, as far as whether actual service and repair were included, whereas they have excluded parts or refrigerant, but
Yeah.
it doesn't say anything about labor, whether labor's excluded for repairs.
I believe, I did see that on there. I don't think that it is.
Inspections are included.
1 year, one
But if it-
additional cleanups, that I did see that.
But it doesn't say if they need any actual,
We will be responsible for any parts and their labor. This
Oh.
is just maintenance.
and their labor also.
Yes.
I appreciate the fact it includes the cleaning on those coils. I think that's important too, something that we don't do.
Well, I'd say, Rick, you monitor it, you're satisfied with, if you think we're getting a buck for the, if we're getting what we're paying for and you feel it's worth it, then I would lean on you for some advice in the future.
I do.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I guess I'll move that.
Yeah, I look at the list of things that they actually check, and I think those are probably things that probably wouldn't get checked
Wouldn't get checked,
otherwise,
yeah.
so I'd second that motion.
Okay, good. Motion passes, guys.
I
Thanks.
believe they'll need a signature.
Okay.
You want more than one or just
I
one?
think it,
Just
think
one.
it's just one.
Steve. Moved by.
I'm gonna take your clean one and trade you, because I wrote on mine. That's
No
okay.
problem.
I'll sign this.
okay, before I came in, obviously, council ran over. But I did call, cause I haven't heard anything back on the structural, process going over to courthouse. Maybe they were in a meeting, but no answer, so, and we did the HVAC last Tuesday. So I left a message. Hopefully they'll call back, probably busy. But before I came in here, I was hoping to maybe have a date of when they may be coming, but I don't have.
Well, if you can email the results of both of those things, I would
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and you may get it. If you get it, I'd like to have it too.
Okay, sure. Yeah, cause I don't know if it'd come through Elevatus or if
Yeah,
it'd come
I
to
don't-
you or
Yeah,
how
I
that
don't
would
know how
come.
they were gonna do that. And I'll ask
So-
when I talk to them. I take that. Would you like a copy?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Anything else, Rick?
Yeah, I just, yesterday afternoon, for those that know or don't know, I mean, the fire department was here. A little smoke in the gymnasium area, fitness area. When I was talking to them on the phone, they wanted to know where the air handlers were, his HVAC, and I told them and guided them to it over the phone. And then I did come back here. It was an air handler in the fitness room. I've got a work order for it. Let me know when they can come. They being Don Myers, they're the ones that's worked on them. Either the motor is completely out or a bearing seized up on the shaft. That's what was generating some smoke. Kind of fortunate that that's kind of when it did happen instead of a Sunday, you know, or over the weekend. So, that particular unit, just like all the rest, filters were changed. And that particular one, we put a new belt on it and a new pulley. That was just at the first of the year. But
If it would have happened on Sunday, would it set off the smoke alarm?
well, I think eventually it would have. I mean, if it would have generated, you know, and whoever called it in, I think they did the right thing. I mean, it wasn't extreme. We weren't engulfed in smoke, but
Yeah.
it was the right thing to do. Better to have one than no one.
Yeah,
So that is in the works of getting fixed.
Well, I happened to be here. What a great response from
Yeah.
City of Decatur, and Preble,
Yeah.
I think, even responded. And so it was, thank you to our local fire responders that they're there to take care of us.
Actually, maybe it doesn't need to, but where I was getting blood drawn and my phone was going off like crazy, but I couldn't get to it. I called him back and of course, as soon as I got him in, I mean, immediately, listen, this is where it's at. This is how you shut it off. So,
Yeah.
taken care of. Trying to think of.
you know, that kind of raises a little bit of a question. If you are unavailable, does your phone defer to somebody else that might be able to come in and help? Since you are a 24/7 employee,
I mean, at this time, no.
is that something we should consider?
Well, I mean,
Well, would Jeremy Gilbert be a good backup?
Jeremy was here.
Jeremy was here. I'm sure he's got enough to do.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, he's probably as knowledgeable as anyone else that I can think of,
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I
or
mean,
one of your custodians, I don't
just
know.
like yesterday, you know, he didn't know where it was. and-
Yeah,
And I told him, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that
think about
we
it.
need to think about.
Yeah.
And look at conversations.
Good.
about.
We're thinking about.
Okay.
Cause if you go to Bermuda for a month or something and, you know.
Yeah, it's, I don't know if I'll answer.
Just can't go anywhere that the phone doesn't ring.
Yeah, there you go.
Rick, just to let you know, in the next several weeks, we're gonna have our audit. So don't know how many, but we'll probably put them in where the break room is now.
Yeah.
And then they'll let us know how many they're gonna have, what tables we might need and so forth and so on. Probably talk to Bob about whether or not they need a hotspot or whatever to get internet in there.
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
So
To me,
just
that's
giving you a heads up on that, that'll be
I
happening.
think it's at 3, but maybe there's 4.
Never know.
Well, I guess, yeah, that might be something to put on your radar as far as what, what your plan is as far as any kind of a second call. If you're not available.
You think about it anyhow.
Anything else?
I know.
Thanks, Rick.
Well, thanks for coming in yesterday, cause I know you'd already left and went home.
Here, though, you were drained of your blood.
Thank you.
All right. Ed, what have you got for us this morning?
Morning, mine will be quick. Just to let you know that we are busy upstairs with our tax time. Everybody received their tax bills yesterday in the mail. We had already getting some taxes in prior to that. But with the tax bills in hand now, we get all the early birds wanting to come in and pay. The majority of them are paying both spring and fall, which is nice. So everything's rolling along there, really, really well. I will say, and Steve, you and I talked about this yesterday, we have a lot of elderly folks that come in because they like to pay in person. They just do. They like to hear that stamp, you know, and as solid and well-built as this building is, it's not really conducive to everybody as far as that. We'd like to help try to keep this area clear a little bit with a few parking spots so they can use the elevator. And also, for the ones that do park around the corner somewhat, if we could get some signage up on really all the doors that's saying that we have an elevator on door number 4.
I mentioned that to Rick yesterday when he and I were talking. So if you would just remind Rick, that we need some signage that directs people to our handicapped access at all the doors.
And, you know, just as the ergonomics of it too, and I personally would not want something up the stairwell on the first door, because, you know, if you're walking with
Then
a
you've
cane or
already
whatever.
climbed half a flight.
Well, I mean, even before that. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
before
you've
you do
already-
the outside stairs, you know,
Yes.
half a dozen steps. Yeah, something down low where they can see the sign beforehand, and I don't know the
Yeah,
answer.
if you would
to what
just
would be
work
the
with
best
Rick
thing.
on that, I think that's an easy
But I
way for
think
us
it
to
would help.
resolve.
Get work with Rick and no guarantee.
Yeah. Okay. And then, the other thing I got is the end of the month report. You all got a copy and everything's there, everything balances, and, we're in good shape that way.
I move we accept Ed's report.
That's quick and easy.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, motion passes. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ed.
That's all I got. See you later, guys.
Okay. Back up and collect some more taxes.
Yes.
They just are going out today, right? And
No, they
No.
got them yesterday.
I got mine yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
should've
mine
got
yesterday.
those yesterday.
okay,
At least local, you know,
sure,
out of county, out of state might be a little later, but.
gotcha.
I got all 4 of mine.
Pay mine tomorrow. I told him.
And nobody's paid yet. Just to let y'all know.
You'll get mine on the 14th.
We've always paid in the
Same
past.
day you always do.
I'm not for those poker popular guys, so I'm not.
Mr. Compton.
Thank you. I was just telling Ken, this is why I don't miss being a superintendent.
Well, he still called you mister.
Yeah.
Oh, you dressed him, but sir. Anyway, Jen.
You know, when I made the transition from being a student and whatever to being a board member,
We,
that was the hardest transition for me.
Jim Compton and Ken Hoag. Ken is our secretary of the Decatur Ministerial Association. We're here
for our annual request to use the Peace Monument at the courthouse for the National Day of Prayer, which is always the first Thursday in May, which this year is May the 1st. And I gave you this. This is the national program, and we pretty much follow that as far as our prayers are concerned. We also have added, we have a lady coming to sing the national anthem. The color guard from the American Legion will be there. We have a children's choir coming, and then the prayer time. So our request is to be able to use that again for May 1st at noon for the National Day of Prayer.
I have no problem whatsoever with that request, so I'll move that we accept Jim's request for May 1, National Day of Prayer.
I certainly appreciate you doing that, Jim. I appreciate both of you.
We
doing
we
that.
very much appreciate, because we hear from others, we appreciate the cooperation. Our county's kind of religious, so we appreciate that we can do that.
Well, I think it's a special time and a special opportunity for all of us. So I second that motion.
That motion carries.
Thank you for coming in. I
Thanks, guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim.
Oh, would you send me your contact information? I have lost you in my travels.
Okay.
If you just want to write it on there, write your phone number on there so I can.
Hey,
Hey, Marty.
I have a card.
I'll take it.
It's the church card, but it's got my numbers and email.
I have something I want to talk to you about, so.
No problem.
Thank you.
While you're collecting cards.
Thank you, sir.
Jim tried to teach me to play golf once upon a time, and it never worked. But he tried.
I think there's a poem about the unlearned teaching the unteachable. I think that may have discussed it.
Michelle, you're up.
Yeah.
We did.
See Daryl. Yeah. Yes, he got himself a puppy. Yeah. He did.
Morning, Michelle.
Talk about troublemakers.
You know it. No other way to be.
Thank you.
I heard a shadow.
Got it, yes. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, this is redundant. You guys heard it the first round, but just a comparison of 2024 public versus 2025 public for the first quarter. You can tell there's a definite increase in each category, trips, fares, and ridership. So I think every month that we continue to offer this, it increases. We haven't had a month backslide yet. So more and more people are seeing our vehicles out in the community, getting the number, seeing it in the newsletter, seeing it on the radio, in the newspaper, you name it. I've been advertising it everywhere. I have 8. This is my second of 8 for the month presentation. So I tried to hit all the different local governments to fill them in because I really want all of you guys that are in government and ladies to be able to explain it to someone, to a constituent, if they needed our service. So while it's exhausting, I think it's really important to stay in front of the community and in front of you guys. So I appreciate your support. The garage looks beautiful. Hopefully you've driven by it. We're still waiting on the tap to be connected for the sewer. So hopefully in the next.
We had the mayor here earlier. We should have twisted his arm a little bit on
I
that.
actually told his mom I wasn't really happy with it.
Even
so-
better, even better.
His mom works for me, so
So we've got water and we got gas.
we
We
don't
just
have
don't,
water.
we don't have water.
No.
Okay,
You have
We
electric.
have gas and electric. Yep.
okay.
And the ballards are on and they poured the concrete apron. There's a slight issue, and I think I included you, Stan, on that email yesterday that, so this
With
building
the
is
pavement,
30 by 105. So all 5 of the 8 bays are covered with asphalt that go up to our apron. The first 3 are not because it's a new site. The city had it in their budget. They did a grant to replace the HVAC over in the Merritt and then to pave 3 parking lots. And the grant wasn't quite as fruitful as they would hope. So they did 2 parking lots in the HVAC and then the Merit Center lot kind of got left off and it's not on the list this year either. So currently, those 3 bays out in front have some rough terrain that will get smooth once the excavators come in, but we need to do something to be able to drive over it so that it's not a muddy mess driving in and out of those first 3 bays. So I did contact the city. I emailed Jeremy Gilbert, possibly Tony and I spoke about the possibility of maybe them having some ARPA funds they could designate just to either chip and seal at least that 3 bay section. And then whenever they redo the whole lot, probably next year, it would all be asphalt. But we need to do something to make that transition a little bit smoother.
Mark, you think that's on us or is that on the city? You think?
Probably on, I don't know, I'd have to look at the survey, is it on our property or is it on the city?
Our property. So.
Well, if we
Did the
just went
counties
chipping,
buy that land or
the
pay
county owns
money
the
for that
land.
land,
Yeah.
so it's county owned.
Oh, but wait a minute though, but where
Right.
the parking lot is the city.
Well, then I don't know.
I don't know either.
And there's an area in front of that building that we got it wide enough so that we had access, and it's, I'd have to look. Is it something we can go in there with? Take care of maybe?
Just at least as a temporary fix, just so that if we're not rolling in the mud, I mean, it honestly, I think the concrete's at least 4 and not 6 inches thick, so it is a pretty significant even bump up.
Would it be worth to have Brad take a look at it to see what the highway department might be able to do in a way of helping out?
Well,
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks,
That's awesome.
Brad. That's what you get for sticking around, buddy.
I'm glad you stayed.
No, you're good. Yeah, we can look at it.
I did tell him
And if
that
it
the
needs
last time.
engineering, Nate's back there.
No,
I think it's-
you don't want it over engineered.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're welcome to check it. I told Brad he could come wash his vehicles there the last time I was here, so. But we don't have water, so maybe next time. Maybe in a couple months.
That's an
I don't
in-kind contribution.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Thank you.
Just some sort of, and then there is a kind of a gutter, I would say at least a foot, that is between the apron and the existing concrete that we'll need to somehow build that up too, so that I can see a tire getting stuck in there, so.
I think Brad would be happy to look at that too. but-
Thanks,
I'll
Brad.
just, yep, I will just look at all that. Any place else there?
That's really it.
Wait till you start your 10-hour days though.
I've got a little street off of Rod Street that needs paved while you're doing it. so.
The other part, as I'm here, is just for our annual ask for allocation for support. You guys are rare in this state. Adams County is used as an example in this state, and I've been contacted about that, about how much support you guys give to this program, that it's not always the case. So there was an option that NDOT gave me this year that I could forego the pass-through agreement and just be the sole receiver of the state funds, but with a whole new bag of requirements that Tony already does a wonderful job with, so I said no. I would like to continue to work with you guys as a pass-through, just to alleviate some of that extra paperwork that you guys already do a great job with. But there are other agencies in the state that are going that route, that are kind of going away from their government and being a standalone. I like the partnership personally, so I would rather keep it as is for now. So the seeded money is wonderful and needed for our match. And then the annual support that you guys give us, I was hoping to get 42,000 again this year like we did last.
Does that come out of our budget or does that come out?
That's your
of-
budget?
That's true.
Okay.
And it's, there's a sheet for each.
Line actually says county.
I'm hopeful that once I get more into the federal and state money pots, that maybe I could decrease my ask.
Good.
But I'm not sure where we're at with that. I won't know that probably till June. So I don't want to short myself for next year. That I'll get more money than I've done it, so.
I certainly don't see that we have an appetite for reducing that funding, so.
I think when I look at your program, I look at, two major things that it addresses, and that's quality of life and economic development. I think it just shines in both of those areas. So I sure would want to continue to support that, both out of our budget with the regular contribution and with our seated allocation. So I would be in favor of that.
I agree also.
Okay,
We got a motion
is
and
that a
a
motion in a second, I assume?
I'll
Yep,
move that
we're
we
good.
accept the recommendation.
And then there's an authorizing
Second.
resolution
I'm gonna take stands.
that I
comment as a motion,
need
yours is a
to
second.
Okay.
have you guys pass.
Right.
2025-1.
Right.
Yeah,
That's,
resolution
that's what you had sent
2025
to us
-1,
previously.
Yes.
Yeah.
and I've already signed.
And is that my?
Let me make a copy of that. so
Okay.
I can,
Or you just want this one and then you don't have to make a copy?
that's fine.
Okay, and you
Yeah.
can send it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So does that need to? get-
This was fine. That one's a little bit different than I gave you. That's what I got originally, and I think it's like some on the next page or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, doesn't matter though, does it?
This is just instructions on how to do it, so I think we're
Okay.
okay.
As long as they.
So do we need to approve that also, Michelle? I think
Yes.
so, yeah. So hopefully you all had a chance to review that, that just like a,
So one is a pass-through agreement, and then the other is the authorizing resolution stating that you want us to provide the public.
the services.
Do we need two separate motions?
I would
Two
do-
separate documents. I think we
Yeah.
need two separate motions.
Right now, we have resolution 2025-1.
Good, Stan.
I'd make a motion on the pass-through agreement,
I'll second.
Right there.
and then,
That motion carries.
I would also make a motion, as far as authorizing council on aging
Thank
to
you.
implement that.
I'll second. If necessary, we need that. Okay, Stan, state that again. I don't know if Tony got it or
I'll give you
not.
the big packet like I did last year
Yeah, I'd
with
make a
everything.
motion to implement council on aging as a, or to authorize council on aging to
Save
implement
it in
that.
your,
Okay, bear,
the
wait,
council on aging
wait till
folder.
Tony's listening. He's got to put it in the minutes.
Okay. You got both of those.
I'm trying to sign and type at the same
I
time.
hear you.
Okay, Stan, go ahead on the second motion.
Yeah, I'd make a motion. The first one was to approve the pass-through agreement. The second one was to authorize Adams County Council on Aging to implement the
Transportation.
transportation 5311 program, yeah.
I'll second this motion, Tony.
Am I old enough to come in and play pool, or how old do you have to be?
Absolutely. You're a
Okay.
little young, but it's fine.
All right.
We
Good
probably
answer.
win.
Michelle, I got a couple questions on your significant increases. Are you able to find the necessary drivers for all of these increases?
Absolutely. We've
Great.
been really blessed in that department. It just seems to be more of a word of mouth type thing. Friends of friends that are coming in.
Good.
I mean, I have it advertised as well, but we are
Good.
doing great. I have, there's 18 of us on staff total, and I think 12 of them are drivers, so.
And the only other thing you might might keep our VSO officer, veteran service officer informed. Occasionally, a veteran may need some transportation to the VA hospital in Fort Wayne or something of that nature. So if you communicate with him and there's ever a need from his office,
Yeah.
the communication there might help too for veterans.
Would there be any funding available to help cover the costs of that trip? Cause it would be $1.
That'd be a VSO off.
I didn't know if they have any.
They
access
may.
to-
I bet they do. I bet they
Yeah.
have some money for
Because
transportation like
veterans
that.
are free within Adams County.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So
but
it'd just
you
be
know,
out of county.
you could ask him that question. He could probably answer it.
Who is the veterans? I mean, last time
Trey,
it was Bullenbacher.
Trey
They
Light.
likes,
And,
yeah, reach out to him and make sure that you guys have a good communication there.
Right.
Absolutely.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Michelle, while you're here, one of the things that we've been considering and that I think we're gonna go forward with, Mark Wynn did a lot of work relative to kind of being the construction manager on that job out there. I think we've been talking about giving Mark a little stipend for doing that work, so some financial support. So I don't know if there's anything in your budget or in your numbers anywhere that could maybe supplement that a little bit, but I think we're considering that. So if you would consider that maybe as well, just a kind of a token of our appreciation for the work that was done, that was way over and above what we pay him to do in the plan commission world. So just think about that for us, if you would, please.
Also, we just learned at our District 3 meeting last time that American Red Cross has a VA program now. I sent that information to Trey where they will help with travel expenses.
Awesome. Good.
So Trey has that information, or Megan and I can send you our contact
Cool.
Red Cross.
If
Thank
think
you.
about it, I will take the info, just so I can correlate as well.
Good.
And I'd say, Michelle, if you have availability of any funds, just communicate with Steve.
Okay,
Thanks.
and thank you for the support on the garage.
Yeah,
I
we're,
really
we're
appreciate
excited
that.
about
It's
it.
beautiful.
I know that's,
Long time coming.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to be able to, once we get the vehicles in there, that we can get on the road as soon as possible.
I already had a contact from Wells County Commissioner wanting to know about the garage we put up because their vehicles are sitting outside.
sure.
Yeah, they are very jealous. The last meeting I was at with them, he was there actually, so.
Yeah.
When I have my big things that I talk about, they are jealous of us. So
Okay,
that's
thank you.
I will take it, but thanks so much.
Thanks, Michelle.
Appreciate it.
And I should have a proposed use for garage here soon.
Thanks. Barb and Megan, come on up. Let's talk about sirens.
I feel like we've talked
Again.
about siren for a long time.
We have talked about it for a long time.
In and out of
Memorized
meetings.
after a while.
So you heard most of our spiel this morning at the council,
Yeah.
county council. Megan and I will continue to work on getting research and just putting some numbers together, finding out about what sirens do, what coverage, how we can replace sirens, but save money at the same time possibly. So, we will, Megan also we just got a new quote from Federal Sirens this
Okay.
morning as we were.
Is this for the replacement of the one in Burn?
Replacement of the
Okay.
burn.
It's 28,522.
Yeah,
Instead
6,000
of
savings.
34.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, does that include the post or is that just the
That includes the
siren?
post.
Okay, does that include
Post-
installation?
post and installation.
Wow.
But, and the sheriff said Byrne will take care of the fencing, right, Sheriff?
I believe so, because that's their property, they probably have.
That's pretty good saving.
Yeah.
Because that fence is there for the water tower.
Barb, are you guys planning on getting any more quotes for it, or was it just gonna be those
It's,
two?
it's probably a sole source because I think
Yeah.
Federal Signal is
They
the only
do-
one that,
They do all the signals in Adams County.
That's okay, I just
Yeah.
wanna be, single source is fine.
yeah.
Emergent, so.
Well, we
Just wanted
just
to be
want
sure.
to let you know that we're gonna keep researching, trying to see.
So you're, at this point, you're not requesting approval to purchase a replacement. You're still researching. Are you ready to?
No, we are ready to replace the one in Burke.
Okay.
We feel like that needs to get done as soon as possible.
And council figured out where to get that money from.
Yeah, I
didn't
think
they?
what they ended up directing was you have a line in your budget, just not enough in there now. You're gonna come next month for the additional to make up the total amount for the one in Byrne. And then at budget time, there's going to be a discussion with you guys and with council regarding how much they would want you to budget if you plan to replace or add more sirens the following year. So that'll be a discussion. When you submit your projected budget, you and I can talk about how much maybe to put in.
And we'll be able to know that too, once we get this survey
Yeah.
back from Federal Signals on
Yeah.
what our county is covered. and
But
what
I
we need
think
coverage.
for this today, and Clayton could correct me if I'm wrong, but we probably need a motion and an approval for them to use this quote to replace the siren, and then next month they'll bring the additional to council. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I moved that, we approve the, replacement of the Byrne sign for 28 something, whatever it is.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay,
Thank
that
you
motion
very much.
passes.
We
Thanks,
appreciate
And
ladies.
one of the things I think down the road, not for today, but down the road as you're researching, as you're studying, and when your board decides to put additional sirens out throughout the county or whatever, and maintain the ones in the city, perhaps a meeting with township trustees, cities, and the county, and a long-range planning for the whole works. Financial planning,
We have talked about that with Chairman Kreider, and he agrees. And
okay.
Right now, we just want to get everything
I
up
agree.
and running for the season.
Yeah, I think that, I really appreciate the research you did on kind of what other counties are doing. It was interesting to see how, is it fair to say most of the counties that you researched, some of that cost was at least being shared with other municipalities?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we need to continue to chase that dog.
Sheriff has
Well,
comments.
that's my question. to the attorneys here, how do we go about that as the LEP, EMA board, or them as directors? How do you go about that, getting that MOU with the municipalities and or the townships? That's something they've never done. How's that? Maybe that's a separate meeting to explain that process, how we get that going with those Burn, Decatur, and the township, Geneva.
In reality, it would just, and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more of just an interlocal agreement, again, between the municipality, you know, Monroe, Decatur, what have you, and Adams County.
Okay.
I mean, it's basically a contract between the two parties related to, you know,
Because
whatever.
The board was talking
expense or-
about relinquishing ownership to those municipalities and stuff. However, EMA wants to be in charge of the maintenance of them, so we know it gets done, and possibly have through federal signals where we find out what TM's cost per tower and have that written in the agreement, so the cities would put money into a budget line item for the maintenance of them, but still have EMA kind of control. That's what the board was thinking about at our meeting last week, so
You could put
that
all of
just
that,
all works into a
you could
contract.
spell that all out in the
Okay.
contract.
And then Barb, I've been on the emails with Doug Nelson on the insurance portion of that. So once we get a figure on those sirens, we can get that to the insurance company. They can then proceed to get those insured. We'll need to check with the municipalities to see if they already are doing that or not.
I know
But-
the city of Decatur insures the ones in Decatur.
Okay.
That doesn't include Preble or Monmouth, but just the Decatur sirens.
Cool.
Okay.
But
Good
as
to know.
far as I know, the rest of them have no insurance.
Okay, I would almost send that amount that they just approved to replace that siren to Doug and say, this is the cost of the siren we're getting now.
Okay,
And that's what it would cost, no matter what it cost 20 years ago, that's what it costs now to replace it today. So,
just one more thing I wanna mention, it's about the insurance. So what we have learned through this entire experience is even if we had insurance on the county insurance, the way that Doug explained it to us is it does not include wind damage.
what in the world does it
What do
include?
they insure then?
That's exactly what I thought. I mean, that's what we need covered is storm damage, wind damage, that type of thing. So, I mean, I don't work.
So that would have to be a conversation, I guess, the commissioners would wanna have as to whether or not to insure those if wind isn't going to be covered.
And I don't know if, I don't work with Doug,
Yeah.
with insurance like you guys do. You know, maybe you can ask him, like,
Yeah.
is there another
Is there a rider to
a
add to?
rider that
right.
we could put on with that? Because I can't see a whole lot of
That's
other
what you
things
just check with
happening
Doug and
except
see
for-
how-
I'll check with Doug and I'll copy Steve on that as well as chairman, so he'll be part of that conversation, and then we can let the commissioners know
That
what
would be
we
great.
find out.
Cause that to me would be just worthless.
Yeah, that doesn't make, well,
Yeah.
And if the city has insurance on theirs, we could see what their insurance.
That's what I was
Right,
wondering
yeah.
too, maybe
I don't
we
think
could
they
figure
have
out what
wind
Decatur
damage
has.
either. I think Jeff Sheets said it doesn't include wind damage.
Huh.
so I guess you
But
have
we
to have
could
lightning
we
strike.
could ask more
Okay.
questions.
Yeah, I guess you could have lightning strike. Okay,
That's all we
very
have.
good.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, ladies.
Doug with one company.
Big floor.
Bixler Insurance.
Good to see you.
That's like having, it's like our insurance, but you're not insured.
Doesn't cover hitting a tree.
Ian, you're up, buddy. Not ready. What?
You've had plenty of time to get ready.
He's not scheduled till 12, so we've tried to make up ground here, so maybe that's a.
Do you have their numbers that we can speak on their behalf?
Probably do if I look at my email.
I'll speak for Jack, it's okay. But only on a probationary.
I would say we can skip to people that don't have any.
Yeah,
Steve,
Clayton doesn't have anything?
I don't,
Our last.
Yes, you're last.
nothing you thought of, right, Mark? I mean,
We'll have them send you
like I
his
just
number.
said to Steve, I'm in the process. I should have
Okay.
hopefully
I-
next week or very soon, proposed lease for, the Council on Aging garage.
Okay,
Um,
good deal. Very good. Shannon, I know you and the sheriff have got something you guys want to
Oh, yeah.
talk about, compensating, Dog compensation, dog.
Another topic we're gonna talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, so I did not get the opportunity to send you guys the policy last week. That was my mistake. I should have.
I didn't either.
It's okay. I was out. I apologize. I just was riding the struggle bus last week and I told Dan that. So our goal is, I'm gonna send it to you this week. Come back for official approval in front of you guys next Tuesday. And then with an effective date of 4/26, which is the beginning of a pay period. And then we're gonna submit the paperwork to council in May, which was always our plan. I was just hoping to get the policy approved today.
I guess I still have questions. And I know I sat here and listened to the discussion with council. And I know there's a significant difference between what we're gonna compensate the SRO at Adams Central and what we compensate the other two dog handlers in the county. And I think I heard that the statute requires us to compensate them at time and a half. So why is that? What?
Time and a half if it is overtime.
Correct.
So, yeah, so again, that goes back to the discussion we had last week where I think the sheriff talked about, for instance, with the patrol officers, they have that's built into their day. But if the days that they're off and not working, because that will be over their hours for a pay period, it just is overtime as you would understand overtime normally.
So the reason that the SRO is different is because he doesn't have the ability to either have a space within his schedule throughout the day while he's at school to stop what he's doing.
Could he do it at the beginning, before his time at school? Because I know if he's on duty at school from 8 to 3.
He works he doesn't work a 12-hour shift. He works an 8-hour shift. So, and he's contracted to be at the school those 8 hours.
So he works 5 8-hour shifts.
Correct.
And he's supposed to be at school from 8 until.
It's the 8-hour day.
Okay.
And he can't feed his dog at school?
Well, it's not necessarily feeding, it's the grooming, it's all the other things. But honestly, no, because all that stuff's at the house and then he'd have to bring that, dog food smell.
And we pay that, the county pays that, or does the school pay that? His 8-hour day?
The school does, they reimburse the county. Yep.
I guess it just doesn't seem fair to me that we have to, that is overtime every day for the school resource officer. But it's not for the other two officers.
Because they have a 12-hour shift and they have the ability to do that when they first come on or before they go off or anytime during their shift, do their 12-hour shift, because they're not required to be at a certain area their whole
They
time.
can start their shift at home since they have their
Correct.
car.
Correct. Yeah, and usually that's what they tend to do. They tend to do it at the beginning of the shift if there's no calls or the end of their shift. It's just
And
better.
I
But
guess the reason I'm pushing back on that is I know the school day isn't an 8-hour day. So is there any way we could work with Adams Central to allow them to build that into that expectation that officer is at Adams Central from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. until as long as the students are there. Then from 3 p.m. to 3:30 maybe is his dog care 30 minutes.
we can, but the school day is not 8 hours, but students coming to school and leaving school, it drags on. And so that adds, that's almost an hour extra because he's there a half hour before school starts. He's there at least a half hour after school's out.
I guess I would just ask us to work with Adams Central, make sure we
can
understand
look
what that
at it.
schedule is
We can
before
look-
we just write into his contract, time and a half and extra, 30 minutes a day at time and a half. It just feels expensive to me relative to the other two officers.
Well, yeah, I guess it is. Then what maybe the expense you're not seeing is then when he's off during the summer and stuff, he's got 12 more days that he takes off. To where, and I don't necessarily have to cover those days because he's not in the patrol rotation like the other guys are. It's much more difficult to cover theirs. He kind of fills in and stuff. It's just that's 12 more days that he's going to be off the road where I prefer him to be on the road and be available. He is a different animal and it took us a while to try to catch all these nuances.
I guess I'm just pushing back on the cost.
Yep.
That it doesn't feel right to me that it costs twice as much for that dog to be maintained as what it costs for your other two.
Well, and that is just the schedule that they work. Those guys, the patrol canines work 83 days a year and they're off 83 days. He works 5 days a week, so he only gets 2 days off a week, so he works a lot more. Not being able to do it while he's working, again, I'd have
I
to,
guess that's my challenge is I'm not sure I buy he can't do it while he's working concept. Let's ask Adams Central if we
well,
can build
he
that.
can't
into the
base a dog
schedule.
at school. He can't.
But if we tell them that that's a requirement of the job, why should we, if Adams Central is reimbursing us for the cost of that
Time there.
time, maybe they should reimburse us for the dog maintenance time as well.
And I won't have an answer to that until I do a new contract with them, because we do a contract every year. So, I won't be able to answer that until contract comes up, which, we do those usually in July, I think, for the following school year. So, so I guess my question is, what do we do from now to there?
Whatever you guys think you need to do, but I just long-term, that feels unfair to me.
So you're okay doing it this way for now, but if I can work it in, or if the
If
school
that's what
reimburses
you
us
tell
for
me
that
we
time.
have to do, yeah.
Okay, I think that's a fair thing. Let's do this, what our plan is, but then if the school can negotiate the overtime for the school year, then it might be those 9 months, they pay for it, then the 3 months we do.
Right.
Would that suffice?
And I would assume you could build that into his daily schedule when he's not required to be at Adams Central.
Correct, we would,
Okay.
we would. But honestly, he doesn't work much during the summer because that's when he takes all his time. Obviously, he does work some, but he doesn't take any of his time off unless school's out. So spring break, fall break, Christmas and summer break. So, but yes, I think we can work that into it. But if they pay that time while he's at the school, that would be a huge savings. Sure. Definitely.
What, just out of curiosity, why is Adams Central have a dog and South Adams and North Adams doesn't?
North Adams does have a dog.
That's
South
on,
Adams does
that's on
not.
them. South Adams.
South Adams does not have a dog, but
North
Decatur
Adams
takes,
is the Decatur officer.
and Decatur takes care of those costs.
South Adams
They just,
don't want a dog.
well, you have to find the right handler for the dog. And they don't have somebody who wants that commitment, basically, because it's a huge commitment. So I guess what we're asking then is approve the policy that is in front of you, will be in front of you, and then if I can negotiate that into the
Negotiate
next
that
year's
that be
contract,
reimbursed by Adams Central.
and then we can adjust it. You guys are good with that?
So
I'm fine with that.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding, is that you're looking for reimbursement of the cost or for the time to be worked into the schedule during the school year, or both?
I don't care how they do it as long as we don't pay the bill.
Okay. Okay,
And if I were Adams Central, I would push back and say, I don't want to pay it at time and a half.
right.
So let's build it into the schedule, but let's put that onus on them and let them decide, make that determination.
They want the dog,
Yeah,
take care of it.
right.
So you guys would be okay if we do it for a couple months until Dan
I
has the
personally am,
opportunity?
if that's,
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Okay.
See if the shop class can build a dog shower.
I say, he's got a nice kennel in the house already that they built for him. It's amazing, that dog.
well, my kids go to Adams Central and that dog is beloved by every student that
Cherished.
walks through those doors. So
Cherished.
believe me, I'm in no way criticizing what's going
Correct.
on there at all.
Just sharing the cost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Office likes it.
So the motion will be accept, when the policy, next week you'll accept policy, but then if I can change
Negotiate.
contract for next
Right,
school year,
negotiate
then
it so that-
we can work it that way.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
Do
that.
we have to
I'm
tweak the
okay.
policy for that, or, but if they, because the policy would still remain the same, as long as he's not at school, then we compensate when he's not at school. Okay,
You would build that into your contract with
yeah,
Adams Central.
okay.
You need a motion?
I
Well,
don't
you
think
guys don't have
I
the
think we're
policy.
waiting on
We'll
the
wait till the policy
We're waiting
next
on the
week.
policy.
And there might be a possibility, and I'm glad we're having all this conversation, because next week I might be down at the State House. So if you have any questions, let's deal with them now, because I don't want to put her on the spot asking the
I
questions if
think
I'm
we
not here.
understand
You
pretty
guys,
well.
you guys gonna whip those guys into shape down there and get
We're trying. we're trying. Because I'm really interested because the DOC issue of our payments, we don't know that till they accept what the state budget
Yeah.
is. So that's what we're really, and hopefully by next, that might start coming out tomorrow, actually. So, that's why we're having a show of force down there, to get us where we need to be. We're not gonna be quite there, but it should be an improvement for sure. They have to do something because our citizens are burdening the expense of it when they should, and we're just waiting for a lawsuit, and then we have to pay it all. The DOC doesn't pay anything.
Okay.
So
Good.
we're
Thanks.
still fighting the fight.
Thanks, Dan. Shannon, have you got anything else for us?
I just have one other thing. So a couple of months ago, we talked about designing a new logo for the county.
Mhm.
So I finally got that back and I sent it to you guys a couple weeks ago. I had the flag added at your request. So I just didn't know if you had any further comment, if you were ready to approve it, if I could move forward with working with IT to deploy it and all that fun stuff, or what you thought.
Yeah, my only question was the font, but that's kind of a minor thing. If we could do something a little bit more,
What was your question on the?
something a little bit less institutional, a little bit more.
Not so
Casual.
blockish.
Yeah, not so
Casual.
blockish. That's the way I would have phrased it,
Casual
maybe.
font Instead
Okay.
of the.
I can go back to the designer and ask that question. Absolutely. That
Was,
wasn't,
do you think there was some, I'm not a design person. Do you think there was some thought that said this is the reason that maybe we just need to understand more why that was,
My
Made
opinion is
blockish.
it's easier to read.
well, and obviously that's important.
And,
Well,
but
and
she'll
I
ask
think you
that.
can,
no, there is. I just have to find his email with the justification on everything.
yeah.
I spoke with him and I know that he at least stuck with that. I'm sure he'd be able to change it. I think he stuck with that because the smaller and smaller you make that logo,
Yes.
that it's still very readable.
I think that's
That
really
type of
important to
font
understand.
on a-
Gotcha.
You know,
Yeah.
on your shirt or what have you.
And I'm not a designer either, so
Yeah.
that was my only thought. but,
I'm fine with it, Shannon, the way it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can pair a serif and a sans serif together, I mean, quite nicely. So I could find a sand that that goes with it, that would match it quite well. That's the curvy and the non-curvy letters. And that's pretty normal for the curvy and the non-curvy to go together. So I could find something like the 1836 is a sans serif at the very bottom. It's got kind of that curve to it. So we could pair those together and give it, give the actual text related to it a little something extra. But I think that the font was intentional. I would just have to find the justification as to why. He sent me a bunch of his thought process.
Yeah.
So,
Obviously, he's given a lot more thought than I have, so thank you.
me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and he's that's what he does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
I think we're fine, Shannon.
So we,
So are
We
you
have-
good for me to use it officially? Like,
I suppose we really need a motion.
I
probably to
move
that
that,
effect.
we use the,
That we adopt that as our official logo.
adopt what you have there.
and the color scheme and all that fun stuff. Okay. Well, I'm meeting with IT.
Was that a second stand? You opened your mouth. Was that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
We could get picky for the next 6 months on this stuff.
I don't
Go
dislike it.
forward.
But that was my only thought, so.
We're meeting on Thursday morning just to talk about like process for deploying
How
it.
to get it
So,
out.
yeah, that's the
Good.
very first time. So I'll keep you guys posted on that process. And that's all I
Good
have.
deal.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for working on that.
Absolutely. It's fun that project.
And this is the first logo we ever had, right? We've never had a logo before.
We've had some stuff we've used, but it's been kind of not very official.
Logo at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at our letterhead, you see some stuff out there.
Yeah, sort of, kind of we do, but not.
I'll get a copy of that for the paper, get a copy. You approved it.
Yeah.
It's official.
Yeah.
Email us the. Resource officer.
Ian, are you ready? Okay, don't wanna, we're still early, so.
Jack was out of breath. I think he jumped. To make it here in time. Dan can grab his- oh, he does.
Get down to that, Mark's here for that,
All right. Well, it's that time of the year again where we are scurrying to get our grants completed and submitted into another new grant format the state has decided to use. Some of us are doing better at it than others. Not gonna pick on anybody, Dan. Last night, our advisory board met and approved the submission of the grants to the Indiana Department of Corrections for community corrections, probation, the sheriff's department's jail treatment program, and the resilience court. In the past, community corrections received funding for resilience court in a small amount of, I believe, $26,000 from the Indiana Office of Court Services. I guess Office of Court Services and DOC are trying to play nice together now, and that grant is gonna go through DOC, not Office of Court Services, which I think there's pros and cons to both. So what we're here today is just to ask for your blessing. I've got a letter that Steve would need to sign that basically says that the county commissioners are in favor of community corrections, probation, jail treatment, and resilience court submitting their annual grant request. I've got some numbers for you, and then obviously any questions that you might have. Community corrections is not asking for any additional money. We've been told it's not there from DOC. As it stands in the new bill, there's no additional funding being given to Department of Corrections for community corrections. So we're asking for 408,670, which is what we've been getting for quite a long time. No increase there. Resilience Court is asking for $60,985. Again, that's quite an increase from what we've gotten in the past. We asked for it last year, didn't get it, so we're not necessarily expecting it. What that will pay for is about 10% of the salaries of myself and the two case managers that are doing the resilience court program. If we get that money, we'll subtract that from the DOC, well, from the project income that is being paid out of community corrections. It's not like anybody's getting a raise, so to speak. And so that's pretty much the number summary for what I'm asking for. I know Jack and Dan, you guys can speak on your own behalf.
Yeah, so for probation's part of the DOC grant, as a reminder, it funds one full-time probation officer position, not everything, but a decent amount, and then we have to supplement that from our user fees. And then a part-time field officer, which helps us go out and do curfew checks and house visits and stuff like that. They've also helped fund for drug testing and for that probation officer to go to trainings outside of Adams County. So requesting funding for that again. Like Ian said, community corrections or DOC keeps saying there's no increase in funding. I rounded up to 90,000, it's up a little bit, but I don't expect to get anything more. It's just more of saying, hey, things are rising, but we still need more. So just figure it's easier to read 90,000 instead of 86, blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of my reason, but no, otherwise programming and the position, everything is the same as year before.
Do you still have somebody going out to the jail to do assessments on bookend?
Yeah, Colin Massinov. It's a long last name, but Rhonda retired last year, and then Colin's full-time. He is through the Indiana Office of Court Services pretrial grant, separate from DOC.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he's out there full-time now.
Okay.
So what you're doing, you're submitting the request for, well, Dan, I want to talk about yours. So
Mine has not changed, and we're still submitting for $50,000, and that pays for Adams Behavioral Health to come in and do case management counseling with inmates pre-trial and post-conviction if need be. Anybody who's at the jail has the opportunity to get the casework by Adams Behavioral Health, and there's no increase.
So you make these recommendations for the amounts that you just stated. Normally, are those grants awarded for what you're requesting?
Yes, I mean, as I said, the community corrections grant has been that amount for, I can't remember the last time we got an increase. It's been quite a while. Resilience Court, we are asking for an increase, but if we don't get it, we'll just supplement it with community.
So what's the time frame for getting a confirmation of your request?
Come fall-ish, but is when we get the
So if the grants, if your amounts are known and granted, then that would be, those funds would be used for the fiscal year 26?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and question for Jack, Have you replaced Tom Fox yet since he retired?
We have not. We did some interviews and still following up, but nope, position's still vacant at the moment.
And what's your current, how many are on probation now? What's your staff?
Off the, probation officers or
Officers.
officers, including Colin, so we have 2, 3, 7, including me, 8 if the position is filled.
That's all I have.
Other questions?
You know, the
guys?
only other thing we had meeting last night, Community Corrections and JRAC, and, you know, as far as the audit that the state does every year, they used to have a scoring method, then Ian said they got away from the scoring method because some counties weren't scoring very good and they were mad, so. So anyway.
Blame the test.
Well, you know, Department of Corrections, DOC also stands for Department of Change. And it
Ah.
seems like every time we turn around, there's something new. Like, for example, this year, it's a new grant platform. You know, recently, well, back in February of 2023, I think it was, is when they did the audit, our last audit. And that was a new audit system that the University of Cincinnati's Criminal Justice Institute designed. And basically, they could design a perfect community corrections agency that had everything available and could meet every need. That's what the assessment was based on. And they said, nobody's going to pass this test because there's a unicorn, right? It doesn't exist. And so when they started releasing some of the preliminary scores, some of these directors were up in arms because, you know, it looks bad. Like, you know, a 37 out of 100 as hypothetical, that's not good. But we lost points because we don't have certain classes based by gender. We don't have the numbers to justify having those classes. And so, you know, the perfect world that doesn't exist in the University of Cincinnati, you know, there was a lot of kickback on it. So, but we did well. Adams County was, from what I was told by the state level, even though I don't have a score, and that irritates the heck out of me because I want to win.
Yeah.
You know, we're told that we were one of the top agencies in the state. And so, toot my own horn. But we do take evidence-based practices and, you know, the expectations of the Department of Corrections very seriously. Where other counties say they don't care, they're going to do what they want to do, and, you know, it is what it is. So far, nobody's been held accountable. It's not like us scoring well on this assessment got us any more money versus somebody who scored less, and that's frustrating too. One other thing I wanted to point out, when you talked earlier today, and I was on the committee with the new building, we talked about that. I want you to understand that Community Corrections currently for next year has $26,628 allocated for rent. We're in year 7 of a 10-year lease out there at the Pigway Ag Building. I haven't been able to fill an administrative assistant position for over a year because our numbers are down and we're not making enough money to justify refilling that position. But if I had $26,000 in my budget, and I did because you guys granted me the, not the opioid, but the COVID money, we need a new home. And I know it's not going to happen in 3 years, obviously, because we just keep kicking can down the road. But we're going to be faced with another decision. And, you know, maybe the Selking family will go year to year with us on a lease. I don't know. Probably start talking those questions to them because clearly we're gonna have a situation.
Well, if they don't want to go by a year-to-year lease, find them their home.
It's not that easy.
I know it's not that easy, but I wouldn't want to get into another 5-year
Yeah,
lease.
I wouldn't either.
Ian, I bet they will. I bet they
I bet they will too.
They're good
reasonable
community.
people.
Yeah, they're good community.
But one thing with Ian and talking about the score, his organization did so well that he was asked to be a guest speaker at a conference to tell other people how we do things here.
Yeah.
And that is an honor in itself. So him and Stephanie are gonna go down.
That's good.
I think he's forcing Stephanie to speak. She's a better speaker than he is.
Okay,
But,
Jack,
I'll
back
need
to
extra
your,
anxiety.
back to your probation officers and the number you have. Are the number of officers you have, is that based upon, caseload numbers, or is it based upon population? Is it based upon crime in this county, or what is it based on?
We've gotten some through grants. So the DOC one we got to specifically work for like reentry. So some of them, there's specific things they can only do. So for pretrial, we've gotten an officer that way, so specifically for acceptance. So some of that ties to the requirements for those reporting. Others, being a probation officer, you have to do a lot of different things. So it could be transfers, juveniles and adult. So to more specifically answer your question, by the caseload. So if we have this much work coming in, but if you work with juveniles, you're dealing with the whole family. So those numbers are gonna look a lot different than if you deal with an adult. Not saying it's any easier with the issues you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But those numbers are gonna look different. So specializing in those caseloads also make it more complicated. So the cases and then the amount of cases is how it's distributed in the center.
Right, okay, and kudos to you, and if your numbers are down, that's the objective of the program.
It is, it's yeah. I know,
I mean, it's truly, I mean,
give
truly, if the
Jeremy Brown
numbers
a
went to
hard time about
zero,
us not having
you
more
could be looking
clients.
for another job, but.
Right. Yes, well, maybe your program's working.
Well, no, that's good news. Whenever I hear numbers are down, there it is. That's what we're all after.
We're so fortunate and we probably don't want to talk about this, but we are so fortunate to have you three gentlemen and the organizations that you represent and the law enforcement and community improvement that is provided by your three entities in Adams County that I don't know where we would be if we didn't have such caring, thoughtful, determined, and responsible leadership, and then folks that work with you trying to work through the crime and that comes with just living in the day that we live in. So whatever we can do to help, however we can help, however I can help. I appreciate all the grants that you pursue that keep your organizations alive. We always felt like that the true measure of a unit of government is it something that we would continue with or without the grants? And I think those questions are easy to answer when you have the kind of results and the kind of impact that each of your departments have. So
Thank you.
I appreciate the grants, appreciate the work you do chasing the grants. I appreciate even more the work you do for our citizens and for our community.
And the respect for taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You know, one of the things that's come to light more with is mental health. You know, and we're seeing that through your grant that you're looking for as far as behavioral health grant for the jail. And then now the Navigator program going through the jail. And so that's, you know, that kind of helps keep people out of jail too and out of your program. So, you know, it's good to see an emphasis there.
Yeah. Your numbers keep going down.
Yeah.
Cause that's an indicator that you're doing good.
Tony, do we need an action to support the grants if these guys are?
You can,
looking
it's
to
not gonna
submit?
hurt to do that.
I would just
Okay.
motion to.
Okay,
Let's have-
approve filing for the grants.
Okay, do we need a motion, Clayton?
Yeah, I would just.
Okay, I move that the grants that were discussed are permitted to be applied for.
Second. Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
They're coming as a courtesy, so it doesn't hurt.
Keep it up, Ian. Good job.
Doesn't hurt to do it.
We're at the bottom of the agenda, but we have some things that I think one of them, was it last week? Mark, you want to come up for a minute? Mark brought a proposal for Ben Rediger to be approved as a plan commission member. And I guess I wanted to resurface that discussion. I don't know whether that was what you were here for or not. But
That is, I was just seeing if that happened, because I'm
That's
gonna
what-
take some, if you have decided on somebody and you appoint them, I wanna get some information, because we have a meeting in a week and a half.
Sure.
So that's why I'm here.
So I would open that discussion back.
I haven't had a discussion with them, but if that's your recommendation, I would go along with that.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, done.
Give him some information, get him on board.
What does he, make sure he knows if he has to come in and sign something or whatever.
That's to appoint Ben Rediger as a member of the plan commission.
Secretary, right, taking the notes.
No,
He's
he
gonna
would,
be, new plan commissioner.
A member of the
Planning
plan
commission.
commission.
Mark, for our office,
Didn't the gal
prepare the appointment form. It's just
Didn't
full
one
name.
of them
Ben, give me
retire
the
from that
email.
job?
what's that?
Didn't
Ben is
someone
fine. You
retire
know
from
Yeah,
that
but
job?
she had some other, I don't know, I think she might be moving. I
I
think
thought they filled that, I had confusion.
We're filling, what was her?
Beth Edwards. was
Beth,
it.
Beth Edwards. She resigned from that position.
I'll make sure you have that form to take with you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
See you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Another thing that we have talked about, and I don't know whether we're ready to talk further about this, is doing something for Mark. I mentioned it to Michelle when she was here, doing something for Mark for the work that he did in addition to his normal job in making sure that our building got built appropriately out there. You know, I don't know where I don't know where the money would come from, but I don't know whether we want to take formal action on that. I'll let that up to you guys.
Well, we've been kicking it around for a while and hopefully Michelle will come up with something, but
Right.
I feel from the county's perspective, $2,000 would be appropriate.
Put that in form of a motion.
I'll make a motion
We
to
have to
that
do it
respect.
in
I'm fine, but if we do that motion, I think we need to say where it's coming from.
Yeah, we probably do need to say.
Do
where
we
it's
have
coming
something
from.
in the commissioner's budget, Tony, for something?
Well, we've got. The only other, like, it depends on how you're looking at this, because the last time we tried to do some kind of bonus or something, we had to create an ordinance for that. I don't know if this would fall, is your. It's probably doable. I just need to figure out how to properly do it, so we don't get sideways with things.
You know, really it had to do with the fact that we didn't have to hire a construction manager for
It could be
building,
like maybe a stipend
building
or
or
something.
building,
I think,
yeah.
I think we should just, form it, or should categorize it as a stipend.
Stipend,
Okay.
and then figure out how to do it
Okay.
from that.
Then that could still come out commissioner's budget then? I mean,
Yeah.
well, I got the motion then, Sam.
Yeah, I didn't see any particular line item that would.
Maybe we'll let Tony research how to get that done.
Maybe just a, maybe
It's
just
a fairly nominal amount,
maybe
but
just a motion contingent on the auditor and county attorney identifying the correct,
So moved.
analyzing budgetary issue or questions.
Alright, I'll second that.
okay, so that motion passes.
Probably gonna need to, Tony, get something on the council agenda, for the next council meeting to appropriate funds into the unsafe building line item.
Yeah, cause
Because
Yeah.
we're gonna have bills for demolition and.
This is different though than I think, are you talking about the demolition of the house? This is recognition for the work that he did in constructing
Oh, I'm sorry.
The garage.
the garage, yeah.
but you're still right, we do need to
still
do
We
the
do
other
need to do
two.
that.
Yeah.
The fund's already been created, we just need to get money appropriated.
Yeah, you have that asbestos,
We already have asbestos
Right,
bill,
we have that to deal with
and we've got bids coming in for
for demolition. bids.
demolition.
Yeah, okay. The only other thing I have, for you guys to, it's on my list here, is I want to go back to kind of that printer thing. We talked about it last week and, I'd like to spend some time with Mike Brown and with Tyler Springer. We talked about building a kind of a baseline printer. As I look closer at that, we've got printers that are being requested to run everywhere from for the units like this that are floor standing, multi-use, multi-user printers. We've got quotes for anything from a $3,000 printer to almost a $12,000 printer. And I guess what I'd like to do is work with Mike and develop not only a quantity of printers per office, but design a printer and have that be our baseline with the appropriate amount of bells and whistles that go along with it. We've got several printers that come with a built-in stapler and multiple capacity paper trays and things that are just And I'm wondering if those are just kind of holdovers from, it's the way it's always been, and that was the last printer, so we order another one like that. And so I don't know that I need anything from you guys other than just, if you'll allow me to work with Mike, I'd like to kind of build that out. And then if we have department heads that think they need something over and above the baseline, that they would come in and basically help us understand what those needs are and why those needs are
That
different.
might involve you yourself going from office to office.
If you guys are okay with me doing that,
Sure, yeah.
figuring that out, I'll work with Mike, and I know he wants to get those printers ordered. I know we've got printers that are near end of life, so I don't want it to drag on and on, but, if
Sounds
you're,
like a great plan,
if
Steve.
you're
Got
okay
my
with that,
blessing. Yeah.
I'd like to work with Mike and with Tyler and kind of design that baseline printer, not only a floor standing multi-use printer, but a desktop printer. We've got some desktop printers that run the gamut from being a $1,000 printer to a $3,000 printer. And I don't understand why we have to have those differences. Maybe there's a reason for that, and if so, there is, and we'll move on with it. But
You know, just like this printer over here, I don't know if we need anything that.
I don't
big.
think we do. I think we could get by with a desktop printer there. So just kind of that level of analysis.
You know, as long
each
as
one of
it
'em.
it printed, letter size and legal.
Yeah,
size.
we have to be able to get to it from the network, so it has to be networkable, but it doesn't have to have many bells and whistles on it. We just print and copy on it, basically,
Yeah,
so.
print- Yeah, but Mike, this might be a question. Most of what we're talking about does copies the same as print, right? Okay.
And scans.
Yeah.
Scans to mailbox.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'll work with Mike on that
Sounds
and
good.
try and get that. But we're looking at, whenever I totaled up the total, we talked about the lease amount. When I totaled up the total amount of dollars expended, we're looking at almost a $200,000 contract here for printers, for a total of about 50-ish plus printers.
Is that current or what you're looking at in the future?
That's the dollar amount of the printers that have been requested.
Okay. Yeah, I have no
187,000.
problem, Steve, with you investigating that. Matter of
Okay.
fact, I appreciate it.
So I'd like to do that. What have you guys got that we need to, that's on your minds?
Well, we had a meeting about meetings the other day. Just to determine which ones need to be live streamed and recorded, so I think we got that answered. Like I said, community corrections and JRAC last night, I asked him, I said, when Rob Parker came in and said that it would take about $300,000 to maintain their jail navigator program, that about threw me off the bench, but, so I guess the discussion at JRAC was if we could continue to make a commitment one more year out of the opioid money, they would be able to continue that program, so, and that's nothing we have to do right away.
I was with you. I was a little taken aback by that number.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
the
like-
only thing, Brad's not here, but the only thing I heard come up that I was a little bit confused on, probably need to get a little better definition on, is discussion came up, Stan, in your area, from, Allen County to Decatur on Winchester.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, is that being held up because there's some property owners that won't give us the appropriate right of way that we need? Or I don't know what the holdup is on that
Well, we
project.
haven't specifically looked at Winchester Road.
Never really called that a project yet. have
We've
we?
looked at 350 west from Winchester to the highway. And then we've also looked at 800 north to improve the mud road.
Yeah,
So, Clayton was gonna prepare a qualified letter, so we gave him the direction to go ahead and do that
on the 800.
on the improving the 800 north.
Yeah.
But the other, on 350 west, and actually it's only from the river to 27. Mike Whirling was gonna talk with the landowners, cause he knows them very, very well.
Yeah, Stan,
So, Stan Furman.
Furman's road.
Stan
yeah.
Furman and Gina Janwetti and Hartman's and-
But the, I think that, you live there, so you know what the traffic is, but I would think that that project would be worthy of some attention.
You're talking about on Winchester itself,
Right.
Winchester Road itself.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's areas where there's been cross pipes put under the road where you got a beholding pool. But, I think it, as much as anything, if we could just keep up on the lines, I mean, whatever they're using to paint the roads, I mean, it just is gone just like in a year or two, so
But long term, you think I mean, I'm
But
trying to
long-
give Brad some direction, thinking long term.
Yeah, long term, I would love to see greater attention paid to the roads that go from Adams County to Allen County, like 000 and 300 West and Winchester, and then also 900 North, and 300 North, which they're doing.
Well, we do have some roads in the south part too, Stan.
Well, that's what I'm saying, 300 North, 700 South.
I
You know,
think-
the roads that go from our county to the other counties, the through roads.
I think there's a whole, in my mind, there's a whole discussion about what are our primary county, what are the county roads that we design to carry the bulk of our traffic?
And I think.
And how do we make sure that they are at a level where people prefer them and travel them versus traveling our lesser roads that have stop signs, you know? I was traveling one the other day, I can't tell you which one it was, but it was like no stop sign, no stop sign, no stop sign. And then I get to a road, an intersection that there's a stop sign on, I'm going, why is that not, what made us decide to have this road, which I felt to be more of a thoroughfare, stop versus the road that I was stopping for? I didn't understand that concept there.
Well, I think what I'm getting at, Stan, or Steve, is, you know, when Brad comes in and gives a road report, and we start coming off, you know, without giving it a lot of thought, recommendations from here, I think to help Brad, I think if we sit down with him and get a long-term plan from his seat,
Well,
it would help us out.
let's ask him to bring us that plan, because I think there may be a plan.
Yeah.
I just don't know that
I
I've
think
ever
there
seen
is,
it.
and
I'd like to see that plan.
I would too. And then we could maybe tweak that plan about some of the things we're thinking about, which one might be stop signs.
I'll get with Brad and ask him to, if he doesn't have a
You know,
plan, begin to
Yes, I
design
would
one.
like to see more emphasis on reconstruction on some of the through roads.
Well, I mean, let's see what Brad has for a plan, and then we could, that would be a good starting point. rather than-
I'll ask him, and he may involve Nate in that too.
Or Nate and of course, Paul Zerby.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good. I'll ask Brad. I just need to talk to him privately. He's got, as I've kind of asked him a couple of times in these meetings and not gone
Right.
very far.
Yeah.
Anything else,
I don't have
guys?
anything.
Okay. Anything from the public? Mike,
Yes.
you're not quite public, but I guess you could be.
Hey, for the last couple of years, I've been trying to work through a budgeting for the county. And I'm getting very little participation. I get them from some people, but not right people. I went through and I filled out a survey with Indiana Office of Technology last year, a 92-page survey, which took me 2 weeks and a lot of labor to fill out, to find out that we do things kind of adequately different than most counties with IT. And so I was requesting last year that we have to do some overhaul in the way we're doing things. Because it's not fair on my department, if you're going out to other counties and asking them what they're spending for IT, when they're not doing things the same ways that we are. They're actually separating things out. One of the things that they said to do, other counties are already doing it, is they're separating their budget out into a cybersecurity area, which encompasses everything that they might be doing within their government agencies. And when their government agencies are not including, maybe most of the time, any cities or anything else in the county. So it's just not fair to go through that. And I think if we want to continue with the way it is, then we need to have some participation from law firms in here, because there's questions that I'm getting from our council that I said, well, we're supposed to support that. And they're saying, no, we don't have to support that. Make the cities pay for it. Well, I'm thinking, that I've always been told, and remember, I came from the public area. I didn't come from a government area before. I came from a public area. A fairly large company that had places throughout the globe. And so I'm saying, well, I'm hearing that things like GIS is something that we have to provide the county. Well, they need to pay. Okay. Then I'm gonna have to have some people that understand that whole thing and to come in and say, do we pay for the entire thing, or is that something that we need to divvy out? And how we're gonna, but see, I can't really answer that stuff.
In my mind, Mike, it's a question of strategy. What's our countywide strategy for information technology services? And I get your concern, and I share your concern that we are trying to be kind of big brother to all of the municipalities in the county. And I've always said that I felt like that made sense because we had an infrastructure and a technology knowledge base and support base that I think we could provide a lot of expertise and infrastructure to support our cities and our towns. But it's expensive, and we've invested in that, and it's expensive. But I also understand your pushback in that it doesn't feel like you get the credit, or we as a county get paid by our cities and towns or whatever for the support and the work that you do. I know you've done just a ton of work down in Geneva this year, just a ton of work, not only physical installation of equipment, but your time and your expertise has been very valuable in helping Geneva with their IT infrastructure. And I think I like being able to do that, but it's painful because then that takes you away from being able to do your work for the county. I don't know what the right answer is, other than it's difficult then to build that out and get compensated for it. It's how much work do we want to do, keeping track of time and job cost allocation. And I mean, as you have, I've built systems that did that. But it is expensive and it takes time just tracking time and being able to build that out. So maybe my strategy is wrong. I felt like, and because I've told Mayor Sprunger time and time again down at Byrne, you guys need to get behind us because we've got the expertise and the infrastructure to help keep your data safe and keep your technology safe. And maybe we need to quit doing that. Just say you're on your own and we're gonna do our thing and you do your thing. And if it doesn't work, it's on you.
I'll tell you, Steve, when I came in, I did what the difference was and what I charged them. In other words, we did in Adams County, we bought the hardware that would support Adams County government.
Yeah.
And nothing more. And that's because what they do is so little that they could run off of our stuff and we didn't even notice that they were there.
Yeah.
Okay. So for us, it was just an extension that they didn't do anything any different than what we already had in place. In fact, we go far and beyond because of applications that we have in our departments that we're told what the state says to use. And some departments have just one, some departments have maybe 2 or 3 specialized applications. And so what that amounts to, once you do that with law enforcement, that Dan says law enforcement agencies all have to be with us because we have dispatch.
I know.
And you bring all that in, what that entails is like 80 servers that we have to have because of our departments that we have and law enforcement and the things that they do. And I took, for instance, if you take Decatur, which they have almost as many employees as what we have in Adams County government. And if I go overboard with them and I separate them out on their own domain, which my plan is to do that because IoT says to do that. Separate out law enforcement, separate out Decatur, Geneva, separate out the county offices from law enforcement. Okay, make that separation so people can't go back and forth between information. Decatur has as many employees as we do. And if I went overboard, guess how many servers they have? 6. Adams County government has 80. Okay? And so I'm getting beat to death by people. Why aren't they paying? Well, they do so little compared to what we do on our stuff. And those are database servers, which keeps out all kinds of information and so on, dealing with properties and stuff like that. They're not doing over here. They're not doing the same things. And they, you know, they have law enforcement, but guess where the law enforcement and the fire departments are at? With Dan. And so the city stuff is not really with them. And so my thing of it is, there's just too much wrong information out there about what's going on. And so we got to bring these people in and inform them and have some people from council. When they come up and say GIS is there, I just want some proof to say that's an application that the county has to provide. And if that's not right, and if I'm not saying the right thing, then I have the people here who should know if that's the case. Okay. And when we come up and they start saying, well, if they just need to get off of our network and let them do dispatch. Now, is that right?
No, that's not right. That's not the right answer, is it?
911 has to come in
Yeah.
to the sheriff's office and that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told.
And
Now,
that's,
is that true or not? I don't know.
well, and
But
that's,
we need to get Dan in on the meeting in front of the people that are there and say, no, Adams County government has to service the dispatch department because 911 is only, from what I've heard, and maybe that's not true, but it only comes in to the county dispatch office. Even if they put up their own dispatch, it wouldn't come in to them because they're not going to.
our dispatch would have to call their
IoT
dispatch.
is not going to put in 911 service for 600 cities that they cover. They're going to cover 92 counties with a dispatch office. That's what I've been told. And I think the people from not only here need to hear that, and we got most of the right people in, but we don't have a council here. But we need to have to start meetings and we need to overhaul this thing. How we're going to charge, how am I going to keep record of what's being charged? How am I going to have to pay for that? I got to keep a side system out because we can't invoice on our accounting system. Now, just think about it. This is almost sounding in a really, really miniaturized version of Doge. Coming in and finding, hey, you got a side system over here in which if we don't get this thing straightened out before I leave in another year, the new guy's going to be coming in. And if you don't hire the right guy, there could be real fraud that can take place. I've left a paper trail so big. Everyone's complaining that they got to do 2. I told Tony the other day, I do 4 sets of information on everything that I do, every contract that I sign, every invoice that I have to make on a side system because our system doesn't do invoice.
Tony, can we not create an invoice?
I think that was that part of the discussion, purchase orders and stuff that we had with
No.
them, or?
No.
Because I think, yeah,
what I need to do is I need to have from our accounting system so that I don't have to do this stuff. Because Bree, when she was here, said, we don't do invoice. We don't do it. And so I'm sitting there, okay, you know, but what I need to do is I just need to have them invoiced and then comes back. But what happens when we get to, I send out my own invoice, so it's not on our system anymore. So I'm sending out my own invoice, but when it comes in, it doesn't come back to my budget that I paid for it from. It goes in the general fund. And so now I gotta have this exaggerated budget that I gotta fill out to cover what their needs are, because I gotta invoice by 30 days. I gotta pay the invoice, you know, and now I can't get my budget replenished back in. I gotta come up and I gotta ask for these things, for additionals. So it started off, Steve, as a really good idea, and I think it's still a good idea. And I do, but what the problem is I'm pleading my heart out upstairs, and I try to do it every week to try and bring people up to speed and let them know what my issues were and where I think that there's problems, to try and settle out this whole thing together. And as time rolls along and I get other department heads that are just beating me to death because I have an audience with these people every week, but they don't understand how much time I have to put in order to bring that meeting and then sit in the meeting and go through it, only to have nothing really happen at the end. And I got to do it week after week after week. I'm here to tell you that the way I have to operate is not right. And I want to fix it, not because it takes up my extra time and so on. And it's not that I can't handle it, because we have, but what I'm saying is we're getting to a point where I'm looking at the end and I'm going to retire.
I think
And I
we
wanna
have,
fix
two different issues you're talking about. We have the issue of the support services that we provide to non-Adams County entities, whether it's City of Decatur, Burr, or Geneva, or whatever. And then there's the issue of internal departmental interactions and services to provide to departments of the county. So I guess I get confused whenever I start thinking about both of those issues and how we skin both those
Well,
cats.
there's a third, and that's the state coming up and saying that we have to shift our budgeting, because when they come in, if we have something happen, they're gonna wanna see what it is that we're paying for cybersecurity, functionality, and IT. And it's more, and they came in and this meeting was about a year ago. They came in and it's cybersecurity has much more to do now than just with IT. It's with power, it's with doors, it's with security, it's all kinds of things. It's for the cities, it's even with water and things like that, and wastewater and those things. Those are all part of the cybersecurity. And so those things have to be placed into a bucket over here.
If you had to
see-
prioritize, which one do you think is the first one you need to handle, or we need to handle?
Or the cybersecurity portion.
But you're just talking about accounting there, right? You're not talking about actual delivery of cybersecurity services. You're talking about having a separate budget line item for us so that you would account for what we're spending on cybersecurity.
Yeah, and we're already doing a whole bunch of it.
And
It's
Mike-
just
Mike-
not separated out on an accounting function such that when I hear that someone is going out and checking on what other counties are spending, well, is it fair when they've already separated out and we're saying, what are you spending for IT? What's in your IT budget? And here's everything that we're spending for all that stuff. And they've placed it over here in a different bucket. So when they go to look, well, here it is. Well, we're spending about 4 times that amount. I don't understand that. Well, they've already had separated out all that stuff
Well,
over
then,
here.
compare apples to apples. We just have to add those all, we have to be smart enough to add those buckets together.
But to me, you know, most of what we're talking about is a foreign language to me, because I'm not IT. But would it help in our situation, which is kind of unique? Would it help to get some eyes and advice from someone to come in professionally and take a look at our situation and maybe give some advice that we haven't thought of to clean all of this stuff up?
I did that last year. That's that 92-page survey with IoT. And they sent it down to Purdue and IU for their IT departments, and they looked over to see whether we were doing things that was
And
out of the
what
realm.
did they tell you?
They said I needed help to start with, and we needed some more documentation and to form separation between law enforcement.
But would it help if you had somebody, instead of filling out a survey on paper, would it help if you had somebody that's been around, that has a different eye of everything? That a physical person that is a very good expert up on all the latest to come in and take a look and give us some advice?
Well, I just said we did that.
But it was on paper.
Well, no, I showed them everything that we're doing, and then they had surveys and had questionnaires. I had to put down all the software and everything we're using, and all the security stuff and everything else that we
I
were
don't
doing.
have the answer because I'm not authority in this area, I'm telling you.
Well, and I certainly am not either, but I
Well,
feel more
we
like,
did that because they're offering it to the county so that they could come in and they could see, oh, wait, you're not doing things right over here, or this is not what you should be doing. That I just said that they came back and they looked at it and they said, well, some of the counties, what they're doing is that there's not very many that handle the cities and so on. But they're doing a consortium where they're paying with a tax base with the county to take care of their IT.
But I don't know, Mike, also, my solution would be to get somebody physically that is very knowledgeable about this area and physically get in here, take a look, talk to the appropriate people and say, hey, here's how we could help you out. That's.
I guess I feel like Mike's concern is more, how, not necessarily knowing what to do, but knowing how to account for it and appropriately be reimbursed for the work that we as a county are doing to support our towns and cities and towns, that's over and above what is kind of the baseline expectation of a county, and how we get kind of credit for that. Whether reimbursed is the right answer, I don't know whether that's the right answer or not, but how we get credit for the work that his department and his team
I
is
got a
doing in
feeling, Doug,
addition.
that you don't think I know what I'm doing.
I don't get that feeling at all, Mike.
Well, yeah.
I
but, you know,
truly
I've
believe
been
you know what
I've
you're
been
doing.
doing this work since 1983.
I'm just looking
through
for a
bunch of
solution because you've been
And
kicking this can for a long time and nothing
well,
happens.
we gotta sit down at the table and be willing to listen and to and educate the people who are in elected positions on what it is that the county must provide and what is it that they don't have to provide. And we have some of those services that we were using for a whole bunch of people to buy hardware and things like that, you know, that came in to those things. They're not actually buying those things. We're virtualizing stuff, and they're not buying per se servers and different things that we would have within virtualization. And so it's just until we can get down and get some of the false information that they've come out, whether they've talked to Joe Blow on the street or whatever.
Who's they? Is they council members or?
It's cities, it's towns that we provide as council members.
I guess I
it can
feel like
even be
that's
it can even be commissioners. as well.
Stan, I'd appreciate I mean, you've been closer to this than I have been over the last several years. I feel like that Mike's first complaint is more how we work with cities and towns and how we get either reimbursed or credit for that, the work that he does and the fact that we have
Well,
agreed to
I
cover a
think
lot
the
of their.
whole system has grown from, and we talked about this in IT meeting the other day, is when we started improving our system, you remember when everything went down, the prosecutor lost their
remember.
information, community corrections lost everything. We were in a world of crap.
That's 5-6 years ago.
And so we had ENS come in and they kind of tried to bridge the
Right.
gap until Mike got here.
Right.
And then once we started looking at the overall system, which was a mess, you know, and started looking at security, and we had, since we had dispatch in the sheriff's department, we had to follow all the CJIS regulations for security. Well, you know what? All the police departments throughout the county had to follow the same things. And so that's when we started incorporating, along with our sheriff's department, our dispatch, we started incorporating Decatur PD, Bern PD, Geneva PD, and started bringing them in. And then it's like, well, if we're bringing them into our system, you know, we may be able to incorporate fire departments or the city of Decatur or city of Geneva, you know, and just make it economical. And so, you know, our system just kind of grew and developed for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure that we have was enough, like you say, when, like right now, when we've got 80 servers, Geneva's only using 2, Decatur's only using 6. We still are the biggest bulk user because of everything that the county government needs to do. So that's not as much the issue, but when we go out and when we have to pay Microsoft licensing, Mimecast licensing for email, those are actual costs that we are incurring because of those extra users. So the infrastructure does not represent as much of the additional cost as the additional licensing. And so I think, you know, our intent is to be as efficient throughout the county as possible. And I think we've got the opportunity. We've got Mike's built an excellent server room, power room, DMARC room. It's just a robust system that's really a shining star throughout all the state. So when we talk about bringing an expert in to look at it, he's right here. He's our expert.
But then why aren't we moving somewhere, Stan? I mean,
What are you talking about moving?
I don't know.
What we need to do
Whatever
is
the IT committee decides.
there's some specific things that we need to work on. And one is a system to bill those additional costs to the cities outside of Adams County government. I think that's always been a struggle. But the other thing is, we need more help. And you've got 2 more employees coming in this year that are gonna help Ethan with GIS and another employee. And then we've got Sarah that's, helping employees. So, you know, I think as we get more help, hopefully that's gonna kinda ease things up for you a little bit, but we kinda have to work with Tony's department too, to be able to bill appropriately the additional
Well, I think
costs.
that's going to be something, as far as what Mike's talked about with invoicing. Lau might have, I didn't know that they started in 23 doing what we're going to be doing and not use Doc Record. So they may be able to do more than we realize, or add it. If you could describe to Kyle or Josh, or probably Josh, here's what I need to do. How can we do that within the system? They might be able to
But
do
even
that.
even within our own departments, the challenge has always been, let's say, the clerk needs all new computers. Well, we want those to incorporate into our system here. But yet, if she orders new computers, then they fall into Mike's budget, and that way his budget is inflated. And so instead of having the clerk having a separate line item for IT, that's always been a burden on the auditor's department to have a separate line item for IT for every department, so a lot of that falls back into him paying for things that he didn't order. So the whole in-house system is a challenge also. You know, and probably the biggest one that I ever remember, and this goes years back, is when we went to the Lao system in the auditor's office. That was $150,000 to incorporate that software in that system. But at that time, Mary was assessor, and she's like, oh, well, I'm not gonna pay for that, IT has to pay for that. Well, all of a sudden, Mike's got an extra $150,000 that he's gotta pay for. So, you know, there's some
Well, and I think also part of the issue is, and how it all works together, I don't know. But if I wanted computers for my department, Mike has to make that purchase because he knows whether it's correct on the network. I can't go out and buy a bunch of Apple Macs or something like that. It's gotta be on the network, and that's IT. So
And
the
that's the
problem
best
is
way to
figuring
do
that
it.
out.
Yeah.
And how do you do that for 27 departments? I don't know.
Let's reel this into solving one problem at a time.
And the problem is.
Let's,
we're getting
just a
down
minute,
into
Mike,
the
just a
weeds.
minute. Let's reel this into solving one problem at a time.
Okay.
I'd like to figure out how to resolve the issue we have with providing services. To me, when we fight over which department pays for a computer, it's like Adams County tax. Adams County's gonna pay for the computer, whether it comes out of Mike's budget or Tony's budget.
One way or another.
That's kind of fine tuning. But when we talk about providing services to non-Adams County government, to me, that feels like something that's a little higher priority. If we could figure out how to get that under control. So Mike, here's what I would ask you to do. Help us understand. To me, I would want a list, but help us understand the services that you provide to non-Adams County entities. If we're buying licenses, if we're providing technical expertise, if we're providing GIS support, if we're providing to Decatur, Bern, Geneva. And then I think the question then becomes, okay, then we sit down with the leaders of those municipalities and say, here's what we're doing for you today. Here's what we're charging you for. Here's what we're not charging you for. Going forward, here's the deal. We're gonna charge you for your licenses. We're gonna charge you for your equipment. We're gonna charge you X amount of dollars per hour if you want consulting services. And if you don't wanna do that, you go out on your own and you get it. But you're gonna be off of our network because the only way we're gonna allow you on our network is if we have the ability to manage what connects to our network and make sure it's secure. So what I would ask you to do is help us understand, help everybody understand, here's what we're doing, here's what's fair, here's what's not fair. Let's figure out how to fix it. Then we sit down with representatives from Decatur and Bern and Geneva and say, here are the options. Here's what we're going to do going forward, and here's what we're not going to do going forward. And we can get it maybe figured out that way. But until we get a list of, here's all the things I do, here's all the things we do to support you, I don't think anybody probably really has an understanding. You know, I know, I go back to Geneva and I know the amount of time you spent working with the town of Geneva. And I'm sure they appreciated all that, but I'm also sure that they didn't write a check to reimburse us for all that work.
The thing is, he's already done that. I mean, we already are receiving
When I
payments.
first came in, I did all that stuff. I built out
Okay, so then
spreadsheets.
what's the complaint? If we're being compensated for the work that we're doing, what's the
No, we're
problem?
Not for the work.
Probably
so
the
much,
invoicing, I suppose.
not-
is-
Okay, well,
Not so
Tony's
much.
gonna resolve the invoicing. The invoicing has to come out of the auditor's office. You can't invoice. I'm telling you from an accounting standpoint, control standpoint, you can't invoice for the county. Tony's gotta invoice.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a problem with that. There's also a problem within the entire county of this relationship with law enforcement and Adams County Government Network. And they're supposed to be separated out, but everything is so intertwined, and it was like that when I came in. Everything was all cobbled together. And so now I'm trying to separate it out. Okay? So I'm trying to put the law enforcement up there, but as I'm sitting there talking to people, it's like they don't understand that the software that's being used is Dan Mayor's software that he's paid for, and he's probably charging them for it. And they don't understand that, so they come to me, "Well, how much are we paying for Dan's stuff?" And I tell them this much, that it's with them, and they, "No, that's not right. We're paying you. We're paying you for this stuff." And then we get into the GIS question and so on. This is something that we need to offer from the county's standpoint, from what I believe. Now, maybe I'm wrong in my belief. They get into dispatch with this charges there, and I said, I have nothing to do with dispatch. There's nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. And the county's paying for 911 because it has to come into that. We have to have an extra phone system that hangs off to the side. That has to be done. And then Dan has all of his licensing and with the people and the cars and so on. And they come to me and they say, "Well, I'm having a trouble with my system in the car." Okay, go talk to the sheriff's office, because they're the ones who's putting that together. I'm not into law enforcement. So basically, over the years, the way it was built and so on, these people are confused.
These people being cities and
The
towns?
cities and towns and our own police department, our own people that's in the sheriff's
Well,
department.
I'll tell you, Mike, if you sit down and have the same conversation with the mayor of Decatur and the mayor of Byrne that we just had here today, they will be no less confused at the end of it. They'll still be confused. So somehow.
I gotta meet with those people all the time. I meet with them in every department in the cities and so on. Each individual, at least, a department head for 2 hours a year going through the entire thing.
Well, here's
But
where I'm
then we
at on
have
it.
Those questions that are coming up. So what I need right now is when we got the lawyers and hopefully we would have some people in. We need to come into the meeting and we need to say point blank, this is what we provide. Now, if the cities want to do more than what we provide, then maybe they need to add their own GIS person, right? If the cities, here's what we provide for that we have to do, no question. We have to have a dispatch department. Now, and if I'm wrong, now you seem to agree with me.
Yeah, I absolutely don't know enough to disagree with you, Mike.
Well, but we might need, someone to take a look and say, what is it that the counties must provide? And so that gets that part off the table. You see what I'm saying? We have to, when we have to provide that, and we have to put computer systems together with switching, networking, everything else to make that happen to what they say we need to have happen. Then if that's not enough, then like Stan said last week, we provided those services and and we can't charge you for those because we have to provide them by what the state says for the county. We can't charge you for those.
Well, we
But
need
if
to
you
put,
want to do more, like Decatur did for a while, they had their own dispatch. Now, they can't run that on their own because the 911 calls will only come into the county dispatch. And then our dispatch would go over to them. And they decided to have their own police department. Then they would decide whether they wanted to have a dispatch or not. But if they said no, then they're using ours, okay? So for us to have all these systems that are in place, and we had entangled law enforcement and county offices together through that whole thing, and then all of a sudden we bring in the stuff from the other cities, then I'm getting a council that says they need to pay for part of dispatch. And I'm saying, no, we have to provide that. Let them get their own. And then let them get their own is a comment that I had from one of the council members. Let them provide their own dispatch department and we'll run off of theirs.
You know, that's why I say, you know,
Okay, so
we've got the infrastructure in place to provide a lot of this. It's like, you know, if I'm driving to Indianapolis and somebody wants to ride along, it's like, heck yeah, jump in, no problem. I've got the car, I could drive. But if he wants me to stop and buy him lunch on the way, that's where I'd say, no, pay for your own lunch, but I'll take you to Indy because I'm going there too.
Yeah, but
So we've got the infrastructure in place, but they've added stuff on top of it that's costing more money than what
Yeah,
we're.
but you take this whole ball of wax. There's an IT committee, right, Stan?
Mhm.
Okay. Should the IT committee take leadership into this and bring recommendations to the appropriate body to make decisions? Steve, I don't know.
Yeah, and what's happened
I
the
mean,
last,
because seems like everybody's reaching out for help and wanting answers.
Well, I want a meeting where we just have a meeting where we say, this is what we have to provide as a county.
I agree. We gotta start there. What do we have to provide? What do we have to provide? Let's,
Let
let's,
them know.
let's, and we'll let them know. Here's what we gotta provide. Here's what we don't have to provide,
Right,
period.
yeah.
And then I wanna know what it costs. What are we charging them now? And if we're not charging them what it costs, that's gotta change, or they can get it themselves.
yeah,
GIS, that's a different animal. That's county-wide data, public records, deed records, property records. All of that stuff is housed by the county. The cities and towns do not have that data.
That's what I want to
Yeah.
have the meeting. And we have-
GIS,
And we have
different issue.
representatives from the towns and
Right.
everything else and our own council. And I want representatives by our commissioners there to sit down and inform them. This is what we have to provide and we're providing, and we're not gonna charge you for it if we gotta provide it.
I don't know that there's anything in the law that says the county has to provide GIS at all. But I could tell you this, any county that doesn't do it is foolish
Yeah.
hey, Mark,
because it's used by thousands
And
of
maybe
our
you
citizens
guys right
every day.
here, you need to know that. You're sitting there, you three as commissioners. Do you think it's not important that you don't have to know that? But with everything that we bring up and we do all that, these are things that you have to know as a commissioner. This is what the county must provide and we must pay for that.
Well, then why don't we
Yeah.
pursue Mark's suggestion?
Mark,
we can
Mark,
do that.
what
That
do you
was my
think of,
suggestion as well. That's when I came up and said,
What's that?
this is what I want
what
to
do you think of having a full IT meeting again, and get everybody, make sure they're there?
Yeah, I think that's good, but I think it needs to be county first, county folks.
Sure.
Yeah,
Before we discuss how we handle.
to the point.
And
These are
we
supposed to
gotta
be to
put
the
some
point.
meat
You know,
into it. When I
for
have the
4 hours.
meetings, we gotta have people show up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't do any good when it's
I gotta run.
standing me
See you, Mark.
or,
Yeah.
See you, Mark.
know,
Yep.
Hey, take
Hey.
care of yourself so you don't have both eyes covered up.
Yeah, exactly.
thanks for coming in, Mark.
All right, see you guys.
well, anyway, we got done what I wanted to get done, was that I wanted to have a meeting. I wanted to bring up what it was that we have to do. And so that we end up this constant bickering on things like with law enforcement and dispatch.
Let's
GIS.
focus on tackling one issue at a time and try and get
That's it.
that resolved.
Yeah, and I mean, 'cause-
Whatever
because I
that one
won't get-
issue is. And
I won't get anywhere until we come up and we say, this is what we're going to provide. And we cannot charge the cities and stuff for what it is that we have to provide.
Well, it feels to me like from the law enforcement perspective, Dan ought to be able to advise us on
He's gotta
that.
be there because he's charging for stuff. I know he is.
Well, I'll say this, we will, you know, the IT committee formerly consisted of our attorney, the sheriff, a council member, a commissioner, Mike, and, well, Shannon sat in too. So Mike and I can work on getting a full attendance at an IT meeting to where we can sit and work out just that.
And have your bullet points in
Sure.
place.
So I'll get together with Mike, we'll do that, and then the IT committee can hammer out some of this stuff to bring back, so if that's okay with you guys.
If we don't do this now, when someone else replaces
boy,
me, if
I
we
can
decide
imagine.
to replace embarrassment.
Yeah.
And, but if that comes about in this thing that I've been fighting on for 8 years now, this whole thing, and to try and bring everything apart, I'm doing my best to try and leave a paper trail, to leave documentation on how we're being built and so on. So if the FBI comes in, or Homeland Security, or Indiana State Police, we got a long ways to go on that whole thing, and I only got a little over a year to get all
It's
that
gonna
done.
take
We
all
were
of it
trying
to
to
get it
fix
there.
stuff, because that's the first thing they're gonna do. They're gonna come in, how are you built, so that we understand how you're built. And they're gonna wanna see it with documents on how we're doing it, diagrams and documentation.
Well, and certainly, you know, we have to have that, Mike.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
go out and get hit by a truck tonight, we need a roadmap to how the thing was
Yeah,
built.
I've been working under that basis, Steve, that what happens if all three of us got killed? If we were sitting in a car.
Right, give me,
riding
I'm
together.
gonna need about 10 more
And
minutes and
so-
then I'll be ready.
I've worked with two businesses out of Indianapolis who understand greatly how we're built, and they handle a lot of our services now. So that if something happened, but what we need though, is we need to have the documentation, and we need to tell you guys where it's at and who to call and things like that, that knows how that.
Thanks,
knows
Stan.
what-
Let Stan go ahead and
Good.
get things organized. the way it
Thanks,
needs to be
Mike.
organized. Thanks,
All right.
Mike. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Don't ever think for a second, I don't think you know what you're doing. Okay?
Sometimes I wonder though, so.
No, seriously. Because, you know, how much do I know about this? So why would I question you?
You'd be surprised on how many people question me.
Well, I'm not one of them.
And I'm not saying you, but I'm saying
All right.
there's a lot of people that are that way.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Mike number 2.
No, you're done with the meeting? Well, we gotta adjourn.
We got to adjourn the meeting. Anything else from the public? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Page 16.